I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like the minutes to reflect we held an executive session tonight for personnel issues prior to the meeting. Any comments on agenda items?
I have a comment on the agenda. Hi, my name is Sasha Hoff. I have two girls in the Tunkhannock School District, a junior and a senior. I have a question on unfinished business on the agenda. And actually, clarification. Is the 2.5% increase in addition to the existing 2021 yearly and advancement in education increases that are already be given currently?
Pardon?
So asking for clarification on the scale that is in current place, the 2.5%, is this in addition to the scale that's already in place, that on a yearly basis there's an advancement placement for in your education or the yearly, in your yearly status? Is that in addition to that?
So I think what you're asking is, so the 2.5, that's separate. It's a one-year extension. So the matrix that is in place right now for this year, those are the salaries our teachers are getting.
Right.
The matrix that was attached to this would be for next year.
Right, so right now, like I'm a level 1 and I go down, I get a increase just from the 2021 year that would already be happening this year. So this is a 2.5% on top of that for the 21-22 year. So on an average, right now, our teachers would get approximately, I mean, I'm just throwing this out there, approximately $307 increase just in the scale the way it currently is. Would that be correct?
I think another point is that 2.5%, that doesn't just get spread evenly on the board. The union decides how to split that up. So it's not just one broad, correct me if I'm wrong here.
You're correct.
But like that, we say, okay, here's the total salary pool for the year. You get 2.5% more. And then the union decides where on that matrix, which specific squares or how much each one is getting. And it won't necessarily be the same for all of them, but they can't go above that gross of 2.5%, if that makes sense.
But currently, as it stands now, we do receive an increase as it stands in the 2021 year.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
so this
you
would,
did.
in a sense, be in addition to that?
Yes.
Okay,
The matrix for the 2021 school year is what the teachers are receiving.
okay. So we're asking and receiving government funding to get us through this unprecedented times. So many families are struggling, businesses are barely holding on. And I believe, from my research, Tunkhannock on an average makes 45% on an average salary more overall. I would ask that that could be reconsidered and tabled for this year.
Okay, can I just, because this question came from Germany, and I want to make sure that everybody understands that the money that is coming from the federal government is not for teachers' salaries.
I understand that.
Okay, so
I'm just saying overall, families we're all in this, as we say, we're all in it together. I'm just asking that, it's our tax dollars and we're all struggling, to make ends meet. It's quite a bit increase. I mean, I did quick math and I'm not a mathematician here, so it just seems like $500,000 it would be more increased in the tax dollars overall. So that's just my concern. Thank you.
I just wanted to clarify.
Thank you.
This is the lowest increase they've gotten since I've been on board. 8 years.
I have a question. So I didn't see it on the agenda. Are you going to be presenting a proposal to return?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Anybody else on agenda item? On agenda items?
I just want to get that right. So is that 2.5% on top of the yearly raise, or is that 2.5% for the following year?
The following.
Okay.
Their contract goes into effect September 1st.
Okay.
Okay.
So
That would be their yearly increase for next year.
Okay, so they're not asking for another 2.5% on top of, okay, that's all.
Anybody else?
Is this about, like, in general, you can cover, or is it only about,
Agenda items only. Items on the agenda only.
wait till we get?
Yeah.
Okay, we're moving on to approval of minutes, item 4.
Motion approved. Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Item 5, business and finance reports, items 1 through 6.
Motion approved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. No. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Item 6, superintendent's report.
For a motion to approve items 1 through 3 in the regular agenda and items 1, just 1, number 1, on the supplemental agenda.
I would request that we do item 2 separately.
Motion to approve?
Items 1, 3, and
1 through
on
3 and
supplemental?
1.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Discussion.
Just a clarification for the extracurriculars, that's assuming, which I'm hopeful that we're going to continue, that's assuming the seasons
Yes.
take place.
That's correct.
Anybody else?
Are we voting number 2 separately, correct?
Yes.
Yes, that's what he requested.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, on item 2?
So this is the extracurricular position?
Yes.
Motion
Yeah.
approved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Yes.
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 Abstain. Thank you. Committee reports?
I would like to
Yes, go ahead.
do my presentation if I could. I wanted to provide some follow-up that we put together. We didn't have it last meeting, and I'm just going to get this right so I don't... Everybody can hear me? Yes? Okay, great. So there was some questions about the grant funding that we've received thus far and what we spent the money on. And I just want to take a few moments and I want to talk through this. I know that Shane and Mary Jean put together a pretty detailed package. And they shared it with some representation from the parent group that has been asking some questions. I'm not going to get in the weeds that deep tonight. However, I'm going to offer you an opportunity to get in the weeds if you want. So we have received or written and approved $818,000 worth of grants this year. Now some of this we went after, and it wasn't easy. So, but we wanted to give you a summary of what we've spent the money on. So we spent $356,000 on Chromebooks. And we got them here as quickly as we possibly could. So that went towards the technology, our educational software and licensing, which is partially the Canvas platform, some of the tools that the teachers use, like Nearpod and some of those different things. We had to get licenses for that. So the educational software was $61,000. Professional development and the development of curriculum was $56,000. And then operations. And what we did here is we just listed the large purchases. So you can kind of see that we spent $371,000 on these types of cleaning products, PPE. Whoever thought we'd spend $13,000 on thermometers? But in order to put one in every classroom, we had to. And so the The remaining funds are allocated to masks, and that's $34,402. So again, this is just a summary sheet. We can provide you with the line-by-line details if you want them. So the grants are received in different ways. Some of them come in monthly installments. Some of them come after we've already spent the money. So like through FEMA, you're submitting for reimbursement. We've received the PCCD, but we haven't gotten the CEEG. So it's a little complex. We did a second FEMA grant we applied for. We're waiting for approval. Now, the last thing there, ESSER/CARES allocation, January 2021. As of right now, we're being told that the estimate of what we may receive is $1.9 million. We do not have it yet. They've just recently, in the last few weeks, opened up the application process. We have not completed the application because, again, we're putting together a plan. And so that is money that can be allocated and used for what I'm going to talk about here tonight and the costs that we would incur to bring everybody back safely. All right, so I just wanted to provide that level of clarity for you. We do not have $1.9 million that's sitting around. We can apply for $1.9 million. I don't know how much of it we're going to get, but that's what we're being told has been allocated to Tunkhannock. Those things can change. I've been doing this long enough to know that when the federal government sends money to your state, sometimes your state takes a big cut off the top. And so the money that they say is allocated towards your school district, you don't see all of it. But there will be money coming. I just don't know how much. Now, if you're somebody that really likes this stuff and you really want to know more about this, what we decided to do was we would do a Zoom session for those of you that really want to dig deep in the weeds and see every line item. We'll do that next Wednesday night. If you want us to send you the Zoom link, please email me and we'll send you the Zoom link. And we'll go through this page by exhaustive page. We're happy to do that for you. Okay. So this is not okay. So let's put this one up. And let's talk a plan to return. So it's hard for me to see. I apologize for the, this is probably the dullest looking PowerPoint I've ever done in my life. It's really, but it's good material, it just is kind of dull looking. So the board had asked us to put together a plan to transition back to everybody coming back. And so what we looked at are, I want to just go through this and then I'll answer your questions and see if I can provide clarity. So why now? Why does it make sense now to start looking at this? This county has been in a substantial transmission rating of substantial since the first week in October. 2 weeks ago, we hit moderate. 1 week ago, we went back to substantial, and now we're in moderate again, which says to me, right, we're getting this, it's going down, the transmission is going down. So we can start to have this discussion because in the moderate range, the PDE recommendation is that you can go back into in-person learning, and so following their guidelines. Spring is coming. So we are going to have the advantage of using some of our outdoor spaces. And these are outdoor spaces that are secure within the envelope of this building. We have 2 large courtyards, and we can use those spaces to socially distance kids. If you look on the backs of these chairs, you can see the extent to which we've gone to measure this out, to make sure that if we have cases, that we're not having to quarantine large numbers of kids because they will still be socially distanced. And the outdoor spaces just give us more space. And here's, the 1.9 million or however much it's going to be is out there. So, I want to talk about 7th grade. 7th grade is a little bit different, but we're talking about bringing kids back 7 through 12 because we've had kids back K to 6 since September, and they have attended school. Now, if we take the admin gym and we make it into 4 different classroom areas, right, utilizing classroom dividers, utilizing room dividers, we can get 30 students in each of those quadrants. That's plenty, all right? So we can put 30 desks in each of those quadrants. When classes are going on, right, the dividers are up. When we're using that area for lunches, which I'll get to, the dividers can be pulled back. They're like accordions. So they can just be pulled back so the kids can see each other. They already eat lunch in there, all right? So that's nothing different. Now we need some additional classrooms for 7th grade. So we're going to use the Innovation Lab, which is in the downstairs of the admin building. That's that big, large room. We're going to use that. We can get 22 kids in there socially distanced. And then we're going to use the two rooms that we're already using at the IC. All right? So this is how 7th grade is going to look. They're all going to eat lunch in the admin gym, which they already do, but we'll move the partitions so they can all see each other and talk and whatnot. And, but there may be some kids that we have to move around to different teachers. So we're going to minimize that as much as possible, but that's the downside of it. Again, to even out those class sizes. But with those rooms or those spaces that can fit 30, we're optimistic that we can keep this to a minimum. Now we're going to move on to the high school. So this is 8 through 12. I went back through today. These numbers are a little different than what I showed you 2 weeks ago because I got nervous and I thought, I ran my rosters right before the end of the first marking period and other kids could have signed up for these classes. So if you remember, 2 weeks ago in period B, I thought there were only 17 sections that would be over 15. In reality, there are 18. It didn't change them by much. And we're still good. We're still okay. It was not a game changer. I was very relieved. As I walk you through this plan, you're going to see all the spaces that we're talking about. So we've found 18 to 20 spaces, including this auditorium, that can be used for classes, and 18 to 20 classes during the day, except during lunch, because the cafeteria we're still going to use for lunch during D, E, F, and G. That space can be used for classrooms A, B, C, H, and I. So let me show you a little bit more level of detail. So we're going to use the high school gym. And we're going to take the high school gym, and similar to what we did at the admin gym, we're going to put up some dividers, and we're going to socially distance kids. We can fit 30 kids in each quadrant of the high school gym, and we can schedule classes in there as needed. It doesn't mean we're going to use all 4 spaces every period of the day. Now, the downside of this is it displaces PE. But there are other places we can use for PE. We have the weight room, we have the pool, we have outside, because the weather's getting nicer, and we have the wrestling room. So we feel like, okay, we've got some options here. So taking the gym and using it as classroom space is not, it doesn't completely displace PE classes. Now, it would be available all day long, but after school use of the gym, in the spring, most after school activities anywhere outside, we would just have to relocate them. So that we weren't tearing down the gym every night, we were just going in and cleaning it. Again, we don't think that that's going to be a huge issue. So the high school cafeteria, now remember, we have lunches in here, D, E, F, and G. But the other periods of the day, similar to the gymnasium, we can quadrant this off, and we can have 4 sections of up to 30 kids in there, socially distanced. Somebody comes down with COVID, we're not, quarantining 50 kids. So the high school cafeteria can be used. It's available A, B, C, H, and I. Used for lunches D, E, F, and the overflow, because again, we can't fit everybody in the cafeteria socially distanced unless we have someplace else to put kids. So the overflow from those lunch periods would use the outdoor spaces. Study halls are scheduled in the cafeteria. We've looked at the numbers, and we've looked at the number of available staff, and we think, because we're going to have some empty classrooms, we can split those up, and that it's not going to create any kind of staffing issue. We also, well, I don't want to get ahead of myself. Okay, so this is this room, right? The stage is up here, all right, and there's a natural barrier with that curtain. The stage is up here. In the back, if you look back, you can see that when this area was constructed, that wall pulls down, and that wall, right, pulls all the way over. So, in that area back there, we would push the middle wall back, we would pull this wall over, we pull this wall over, you have 2 classrooms back there that can fit 35 kids. All right? We put up the partitions coming down this aisle, and we can fit 30 kids over here. We put up more partitions up that aisle, and we can fit 30 kids over here. This whole section where we all are sitting is empty. And we're going to keep it that way, because we may need it, but we have it. We have it, okay? So, what I foresee is the stage, in the back, on the side, keeping them as separated as possible. Now, some of you may be thinking, yeah, but if I'm over here and somebody's talking, how am I going to not pay attention to the teacher that's over there? So if you want to get detailed about what we've ordered in terms of technology, all the kids are going to have headsets. And they're going to be listening to their teachers through their headsets. The only people that ought to be able to hear each other is the teacher and their students. Do you understand what I'm saying? So they're going to have headsets on. But I cannot emphasize to you enough that what I'm trying to do here is put your kids in front of a teacher. I'm not trying to warehouse them. I could bring them all in here, and I could say, you know what? You're in school, and you just do what you would have done at home. That is no better than what we're doing now. So, I'm trying to put your kids in front of a teacher 4 days a week, all right? And this is part of that plan. If I have to use this section, for whatever reason, I've got it to use. So the auditorium is used periods A through G, either 4 sections or 5 sections going on in here all the time, except for periods H and I, which I don't need as many, I don't have as many sections to account for, so we leave the band in here. H and I, the band's in here. All right? So we're not displacing the band, which is too big for the band room, which is a great problem to have. High school library, we can fit 26 kids in there. So we look for sections where we have 26 kids or less, and we can use the library in front of a teacher, not stuck on a Chromebook. Maybe listening to their teacher through the Chromebook, but not necessarily having to stare at the screen. We do have one large room, and this is back in the child development area. There are 2 rooms that are together. We can open them up, and we figure we can fit 30 kids in there. So that's another space that we're looking at using. That gives us some flexibility. Told you, we can't have band in the band room because we have too many kids in band. But we can fit 20 kids in the band room. which is more than 15, which is what most of our classrooms can fit. So we're looking at that space as well. Now, that's wrong. I'm sorry. It's tent 1. Tent 1 and this middle section of the auditorium would be sort of our fallback places. And when I explain this to you, you'll understand why it's important for us to have a fallback place, okay? So, tent 1, which would be in that courtyard, right now, I'm not, we're gonna have it because we may need it. But I don't have a lot of stuff scheduled in it right now. So when the kids are using tents 2 and 3 in that courtyard, the bigger courtyard, that's gonna be primarily lunch, 4 lunch periods. We'll have the overflow in there. And then period B, band. We got 44 kids in wind ensemble. And I got to put them somewhere. So that's probably, they're going to be out there too. So these are the associated costs so far. And I don't have, there's a couple quotes I don't have yet. So the tent company is coming tomorrow. And these are tents that have 4 walls and they have the capacity for heat. So he's coming tomorrow to look at the courtyard space, and he's given us a quote on the tents, but we don't have the quote on the heat or the flooring. And just in case anybody wonders, I've had the fire chief here from Triton twice, right? And I'm like saying, is this gonna work? Is this gonna be okay? The reason we're using the courtyard, folks, we talked about putting tents outside the perimeter of this building. It terrifies me, because I don't know how to keep kids safe when they're outside the envelope of this building. So the courtyards made the most sense. But I needed the guy, I needed Eric Kukuchka to come and to walk it with us. And to make sure it was going to be safe, right, for the kids that are in the courtyard. And what steps are we going to take to make it safe? But this is much safer and much easier for our security team, right, if we have these kids within the walls of this building. So I hope you can understand that. And as far as I know, the courtyard is not ideal, right? Of course, I also think that by mid-May, everybody's going to want to be out there. But, so the tents we would spend about $16,600 on. That's for 3 months. It's 3 tents. It comes to about $5,555 a month per tent. There are 30 by 45. Is that right, Shane? Did I get? Yes. Okay. They're 30 by 45. So we can fit. I didn't put that on there. How many kids?
It's about 35 under each of those tents.
Yeah, 35 under each of those tents. That'll be enough for the overflow. That'll be enough for the band class. That'll be enough that if Katie Wisnowski wants to take her kids outside because it's a nice day and the tent is open, she can do that. She's got enough space in there to do that. We don't have the heating and the flooring estimates yet. All right, but we're getting them. We expect we'll have the heating one tomorrow. We expect the flooring one, I think, on Monday, maybe, John? Monday? Yeah, okay. We've ordered 21 room dividers. Now, these are the things that I was saying are the accordions that are going to come down the aisle. They're 24 feet long by 6.8 feet, or 6 feet, 8 inches high. All right, so again, we had to account for the sound. It will be a visual barrier, though, so it shouldn't, kids that are sitting over here shouldn't be distracted by somebody if there's a section in this area. 10 dry erase boards, and then under the technology budget, we also ordered some of the smart boards that are going to be mounted in some of the different areas. So, so there's going to be a combination of portable ones. It will be a combination of some of the smart boards that we use in the classrooms. It's just going to be a combo. But we kind of walked these spaces and tried to decide what we need. Now, We're going to put some flooring down in the admin gym, and here's the reason why. If you've ever been in that gymnasium, it's beautiful, but it's old. And the sound, what's the word I want? Yeah, the ability for it to be quiet in there is really not great. So if we put down some of this rubber flooring, we believe that it'll really help the kids, and it'll help with the noise between the classrooms. Again, they're going to have headsets on, but still, we just think it's a good idea. There's some fencing that we're going to put up at admin so we can get those kids outside as well, and in some outdoor spacing. So it's minimal, but we're going to do that. And then the technology budget, which is $62,000, that includes the wireless access points, the extra ones that we're going to need. We think that's a good investment. Like when we're putting wireless access points into the gym, that's only going to help us down the road. You know, I mean, so we can broadcast more easily from the gym, but we have to pull that wire. We have to set up those access points. There's some different technology that I don't pretend to understand. We want our teachers to be able to talk to the kids that are in their class, so there's some Bluetooth stuff that's going on there. So that's all in the technology budget. And so the major places obviously would be the STEM Academy gym, and then in these high school, these larger group places in the high school. Okay, the advantage to this plan is that it puts a teacher in front of your kids. Your kids are not being warehoused, they're not behind a screen, while their teacher is on the other side of the building. All right? We're putting a teacher in front of your kids. It's staffing neutral. The only way I could do this, right? I can't split up the sections because I don't have enough staff. But if I move the teacher with the kids to a bigger area, I can make it work. And that's what I've done. It allows for 6 feet of social distancing. So when we have a kid that gets sick or a staff member that gets sick, I'm not losing a quarter of the class because they weren't socially distanced. Whether you believe in it or not, that is how contact tracing is done. And I will do it to the Department of Health standards. That is how it's done. That's how I'm told to do it. So if I'm being a stickler about 6 feet, it's because we can do this. And I don't have to put kids out on quarantine. Think about it. Your kid moves into 8 different classrooms during the day, sitting with different groups of people. If they're less than 6 feet apart, one case can easily knock 48 kids out on quarantine. I want to keep kids in school. We're going to the effort of bringing them back and putting a teacher in front of them. I want to keep them here. So, what this allows us to do is come back from a hybrid model, 7 through 12, to 4 days of instruction a week. What it means is there is no hybrid. The hybrid is gone. So if kids are either choosing to come back or they're choosing Fusion C3, and I know there's going to be kids that will choose Fusion C3, because I know there's kids that have been working all year long. And their work schedule is on Tuesdays and Thursdays or Monday and Wednesdays, and they're going to make that choice. When they make that choice, right, some of our numbers in our classrooms are going to go down. So this is the timeline that I'm recommending. Oh, wait. I want to tell you some of the caveats before I get to this. All right, so this is somewhat winter weather dependent. So where I'm talking about putting 2-3 tents at this point is buried in 1.5 feet of snow. Now, the last couple days have been really good, and I expect that the snow is going to melt, and I don't expect another big storm. But if we get a forecast that says, look, it's going to snow, the guy that owns those tents is going to come and he's going to collapse them, because he obviously doesn't want them to break, because that's how he makes a living. If that should happen, which again, I hope it doesn't. If that should happen, the worst case scenario is we do a virtual day. All right, we've done them before. We know how to do them, we're equipped to do them, we do a virtual day. Weather passes, boom, tents are back up, everybody's back. So, now, the other thing is, if we had, say, and again, I know people don't think about this stuff, but I have to think about this stuff. So we get a tornado warning. We get thunder and lightning. Period D lunch. I can't have kids outside, right? We don't do it for sporting. We're not going to do it for lunch period or when the wind ensemble's out there. What do? If those situations occur, remember, I have this space, right? I have some empty classrooms. It would not be ideal, but we're talking about an event here. We're not talking about day to day. We're talking about an event. Do I think that I could house kids safely in this building on a temporary event kind of thing? Absolutely. We'd make it work. We'd figure it out. So, inclement weather plan, we do believe we can make it work because we have to think of everything. Now, the one thing I don't know, the buses are rostered for your high school kids, 7 through 12, right? But we haven't, to date, put all of them on the buses. So I don't know how many kids are going to ride buses. We made you no promises about social distancing on buses. I will tell you, we have done the best that we can. The best that we can on the buses. So, I don't know what it's going to do. I don't know how many kids are going to ride buses. That's the bottom line. So I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell you that yet. I can tell you that we'll redo seating charts to keep kids as far apart as we possibly can. And there's always the increased unknown of expenses, but I'm not terribly worried about that. So, this is my recommendation to the board. We return cohorts A and B, because I know those numbers, right? I know the maximum of what those numbers are going to be. We return them on March 22nd. All of our equipment should be here. There shouldn't be any game stoppers. All right? We return those kids on March 22nd. We see how many of the older kids want to switch to Fusion. All right? We get an idea of how many spots, right, are opening up. And I want to be very careful about how I say this, because that probably wasn't the best way to say it. We open up the fourth marking period to anybody from Fusion C3 that wants to come back. If we have a number of kids that want to come back, what it might do is it might move a class from the library into one of those spaces, right? Because the library is 26, that's 35. So it would allow us to do a little bit of shuffling and allow us to plan. But I need a little breathing space to see, like, all right, what's working, what's not, how many kids are not going to return. So that's my recommendation, is we combine A and B beginning on March 22nd, which is a Monday. All the kids are back, A and B. And then we see where, let the dust settle. And then Fusion C3 students, we start assessing them and we say, okay, all right, what is your schedule going to look like? Where do we need to make arrangements and where do we need to shuffle around? I don't want to warehouse kids, but I don't know how many kids are coming back from Fusion C3 either. All right? So if there's one section a day where your kid is online, I hope that I don't have to do that, but I'm not going to stand up here and tell you with certainty that that may not happen. But it won't be all day long, and it won't be every day. The other thing I wanted to mention to you that is kind of an outlier, science labs. So if your kid's taking a science class, I can't have 22 kids in a lab. All right, it doesn't work. We don't have that space. So that might be a day where we're using this area and we're going back to the cohorts. So cohort A is doing their lab on Monday and cohort B is doing, and cohort B is sitting in here, and the next day cohort B is doing their lab, and cohort A is sitting in here. It will not be every day. It would only be for lab work, but we have to think about those things too. So I'm trying to have there be as few surprises in this plan as possible. But I warn you, I don't know what I don't know. So, like every other week in this pandemic, for the last year, it's been like, oh, I didn't think of that. Or, oh, we didn't plan for that. All right? I don't have a crystal ball. That is my recommendation to the board.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from board members?
So Friday is a virtual day?
Yes.
Any other board members?
There were a couple things that, not necessarily questions, but points that I think I wanted to expand upon that Heather had made. Just as a matter of the way something was worded, this discussion started before all this other chaos in the community. Like, the plan was never, I said this I think at the first meeting in January, the plan was never to just be committed to hybrid for the rest of the school year. I personally would have loved if we had been able to come back sooner. I'm really happy that we're coming back now and that it's not just for the fourth marking period. Heather mentioned using the outdoor space. That's not abnormal. That's something that we've done before. As a matter of fact, eating lunch outside was a privilege from what I understand for seniors. I am not here in the high school, but I heard from a senior parent that said that they were bummed that their kid hasn't been able to eat outside this year. We have recess outside, the band goes outside, gym class has gone outside, but even when you compare that, anybody who might be questioning the tents or the courtyard, for safety and security reasons, there's a different level of alertness when you're inside a walled tent with heaters running and being instructed without a visual versus a gym class in a field or being outside for, a 20-minute recess. It's a heightened level of alertness, and I think that is the right thing to do if we're going to use outside spaces. When we talk about Heather talked about the social distancing and whether or not you believe in the specifics of how all this works or whether we should or we shouldn't. The guidelines are that if you are with a contact, you are quarantined. You're not allowed to come into the building. And in the event that your kid is quarantined but doesn't get sick, there's no end to the number of times that can be your kid being quarantined. So they could come back to school and then be a contact again and go home. The only reprieve from that is actually getting COVID, and then they don't make you quarantine for 3 months. There have been schools around here where all but a dozen or two of an entire grade, because they weren't social distancing, is quarantined at any given time. And as far as the kids on the bus, that has been something we've done to the best of our ability. But there is a difference between a static exposure with a set number of specific kids and what that exposure is versus 8 periods of commingling students that change in every period all day long, which is the case for every 9th through 12th grader. 7th and 8th grade, they're moving with the same kids, but that I don't feel that we're being hypocritical by saying that we'll accept that certain risk on the bus versus in the commingled classes. So, I just kind of wanted to preempt some of those things that might come up, and I would make a motion that we approve this plan. I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments from the audience? Please limit to 2 minutes.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Brody. I have daughters in 8th and 9th grade. I appreciate a lot of the answers that we've gotten over the last couple weeks. I'm sorry that it's been viewed as chaos in the community because we're just trying to do the best for our kids. But one thing that I would like to ask is why can we still not push for a 5-day return versus a 4-day return? So I know that years ago when everybody was working on consolidating schools and doing that effort, there was a concern about the number of students that were leaving because of cyber. To me, it feels like we're making the choice to use the pandemic as an opportunity to solve that problem when it existed a very long time ago. And my kids have been through enough this year, and I think every other kids have been too. So I don't understand why we would make that sacrifice now instead of, making it at a different time or doing that in addition to, doing a 5 full day return. So I really appreciate the answers that we've gotten. I would like to see my kids back in 5 days. I think that they've missed enough.
Thank you.
And then I also have a question about the failure rates. Are we gonna get that information or is that not gonna be available?
So I do have that information.
Okay.
They have gone up. The only way that we felt it was relevant to do this was to do a comparison between first semester last year and first semester this year. Because the kids in 8th grade and a lot of the kids at the high school are taking classes. They're year-long classes. So in order to do it as much as I could, I'm sorry. Can you guys hear me now?
No.
I'm sorry. I forgot to put this on. Okay, now can you hear me? I apologize. So I did do that. So we have 730 students in 9 through 12 at the high school, and 471 of those are in brick and mortar. So the failure rate last year for the kids that were here was about 5.3% in the first semester at the high school. It's now about 19%. So what that means is 19% of kids have failed a class. It doesn't mean they failed for the whole year, and it doesn't mean they can't retake the class. So that is consistent with districts around us. It is consistent with districts throughout the Commonwealth, and it's consistent across the United States. I'm not using that as an excuse. I was not surprised by this. So yes, those are the numbers that I have.
Okay. Well, thank you for that, because I know it's been a challenge, and I don't think anyone would be surprised by that. And, when you are trying to make the best of a situation, you're going to have some things that fall. But I think that further proves my point of we need the kids back in 5. Like, they've got to get some catching up done. And I don't understand why we would make that choice now for the cyber program when we're in the midst of all of these difficult things to figure out. It just, to me, doesn't make sense. I don't understand why we wouldn't delay that a year or finish it, through a professional service or something like that instead of what we're doing. So I would like to challenge the board to consider 5-day instead of a 4-day, and then figure out the cyber option some other way or in addition to, instead of misplacing what we're doing now. Thank you.
My name is Cedar Apple. I'm a sophomore here at the high school. I'm in the brick and mortar thing. To start, I want to thank all the teachers of this district for working almost nonstop to ensure our lessons are easy to follow and submit, and for taking the extra time to help us with technology when we are confused. This is for the teachers watching right now at the safety of their home, and I just wanted to let them know that we appreciate you. I know tonight the board plans on voting for a plan to send students back 4 days a week. And it is important to remember that K-6 has been in school 4 to 5 days a week up to this point. So the people most impacted by this decision will be 7 through 12. I think I can speak for almost all students when I say we would love to return to school like a regular year. But I truly enjoy going 2 days a week. I'm used to this schedule and I've learned to navigate it. It creates more of a one-on-one learning experience, and I think that has helped my grades a lot. I'm scared that if we open 4 days a week, COVID numbers at the high school will grow and we'll be forced to quarantine for long periods of the last quarter of school. This can cause grades to drop and the mental health of students to drop. I have also read many Facebook posts from parents regarding that the high school is not doing a good job, and I truly disagree. I can speak from personal experience when I say it is not the teacher's fault that we are failing. It is because we students lack motivation, sometimes, to follow through with what we need to do. We are teenagers, and procrastination has always been a problem for us, especially in the midst of a pandemic. If the board votes to return 4 days a week, I might switch to the Fusion C3 option, which I don't want to do. One of my main reasons beside COVID will be because of the several classes that will need to be relocated, like the cafeteria and the gym and even outside. And I feel as though even with headsets, this will be really distracting and stressful for students to learn when there's 4 other classes going on around us. We only have 1 quarter left in this year. And to me, it seems kind of silly to change the original plan to accommodate for only a small amount of parents who are currently unhappy. We can create other options for students who are struggling after school, like tutoring, like we did last year. A few weeks ago, our parents filled out a survey about sending us back to school. But not once have the teenagers been asked how we feel about this transition. For many of us, our parents answered the questions without even asking our opinion. We students want to be heard. And teachers, they should be heard too. What if our teachers don't feel comfortable with this new arrangement of classrooms? And they have the most experience on how students learn the best. So I hope tonight, when you vote, that you will think of us teenagers and not just the parents. Because at the end of the day, the teachers and the students are the ones who sit in this building for 8 hours. We see what happens. We know what it's truly like. Don't just think about what the parents want, because the students know what will work best for us, and that isn't just having all my classes in a gym. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Caden Smith. I'm in my sophomore year, and I will be speaking for some of my fellow classmates, along with some parents. Initially, when I heard about the 4 days a week plan, I thought, yes, it's a great idea. But as I was thinking, I was also putting some things in perspective. Sure, I want to have some sense of normalcy during these times, but there's a fine line. I think we should wait until next year instead of implementing it at the last of this, in the last of this quarter. We get a decent amount of COVID cases by going 2 days a week. I don't think we should put ourselves in this kind of position if we're going to face a possibility of sending us back to square one, a shutdown. As a student, that is the last thing we need. I had a rough start to my first semester classes, but I don't think opening up the school and 4 days a week is the answer. I'm sure we can have some kind of alternative, like maybe opening up the library for after-school tutoring and maintain a safer environment. I know a lot of parents are wanting 4 days a week, but I think we should all come together in conclusion and ask the people who are really here 8 hours and experienced it all firsthand, the students and staff members. I don't think we are quite ready for this big of a step, considering from the start of September to present day, I still see kids and even staff members not properly social distancing and not properly wearing a mask. So if we can't stand in a lunch line correctly, then how do we expect us to go 4 days a week? Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Teresa Pasolka. I have a student in the Intermediate Center and one in the STEM Academy, and you've seen me up here several times. I just want to begin with, I'm kind of sad to see an almost adversarial point that we've gotten to because we're all trying to do the same thing, and I'm sorry it seems that you may think we're being harsh, but it's our job to question, and we have concerns, and when they don't get answered, we get frustrated. So I appreciate you addressing a lot of those concerns, and I appreciate the plan you've come up with. One of the things I'm curious about, though, is when was this plan conceived? Because I feel like besides the tents, we've had all this space all this time. Why was this not worked on, considered sooner? How long has this process been to determine we can use that space and you can use that space? Because I feel like parents have been saying that for a while and I'm not sure why it hasn't been utilized until now.
Because according to the Department of Health guidelines, if you are in a substantial transmission rate, the recommendation is hybrid.
A recommendation, but you don't have to.
Recommendation is hybrid.
Right. So that your decision was to go with the recommendation. Okay. I would echo Mrs. Brody's sentiments about 4 days a week versus 5, because the last time I asked about why, when K through 6 had to go to Fridays off, I was told it's because they need time to build content for the Chromebooks. But to me, if if your teacher's in front of you, teaching you 5 days a week, you don't need a Chromebook. They're there. That content on the Chromebook, to me, is only if there is a virtual day or a day which is coming to an end, especially with the snow and the weather kind of giving back, and we're in a moderate transmission. So my students, they go to school. My daughter goes 4 days a week now. My son's there 2 days a week, if he's lucky, with the weather. And even when he's going to school, he has to take his Chromebook because he's going to class, and he's sitting there with the Chromebook open in class. We talk all the time about kids spending too much time in front of a screen. When my kid is only there 2 days a week and he has a teacher in front of him, that better be closed and they better be on the teacher. I don't agree with that method. I feel like if we can finally put them back in front, I understand it was a necessary evil for a certain amount of time. But if there's a teacher there and they can be there 4 days a week, I don't understand why they can't be there 5. And as far as we have this plan now for the 4th quarter, have we looked ahead to the plan for fall? Because that's where we need to be looking. You know, this isn't something you can't just look at the end of your nose. You got to look at the distance. Because, I mean, you're right, we don't know what's going to happen, but we got to plan like, okay, with vaccinations coming out and all this stuff, we've got to make the plan now. And if we're not looking there, we need to start. And I want to remind this board that several years ago, when this school considered consolidating, they created a committee of parents and community members and educators to discuss concerns and how to approach that. And you've got a group of parents who are willing, and I suggest you do that again now. It'll dispel a lot of miscommunication, frustration, and concerns if everyone can work together. Thank you.
Thank you.
I do think it's worth remembering that about 25% of our students are still choosing, in all grades, are still choosing to learn online, fully online. And that number may change in an upward or downward direction when we return, but we are still responsible for providing their education. And that, I mean, that's going to take some effort on the part of the teachers, especially our high school teachers that are teaching both of those. You know, in some cases, from my understanding, we've had the ability to have elementary teachers that are solely focused on teaching cyber C3, but I think every one of our high school teachers are carrying a double load. So when you talk about 4 days versus 5, there's still going to be that need to have the cyber education. So I mean, I'm just throwing that out there. I'm not.
But then again, that goes back to the point I brought out before of Zoom classes with real in-person instruction. You know, I can go to a karate class and people who aren't in the studio are at home, and all we do is set up a laptop in the front and they can see and they do it along with us at the same time. I've asked about that before and no one's really giving me an answer of why that's not an option.
The C3 program is not synchronous. So the kids can do it at 8 o'clock at night when mom gets home from work, or they can be doing it at 7 o'clock in the morning. And that was by design. So that's why it's not just a live Zoom for them. I mean, I don't want it to be a back and forth. I just wanted to throw that out there as far as that is a consideration, and we can't just dismiss the needs of 25% of our students any more than we can dismiss the needs of 75% of our students that want to be back. So there is that give and take, and there is a compromise that's needed. And, you know, we can't have the perfect ideal solution that everybody's going to just be thrilled with that serves the needs of a diverse situation like this. That's all I meant to put out there.
And my name is Josh Hartman. I have 4 kids in your school district, in the high school and all the schools, the middle school, the elementary school, and all of my kids are pretty much failing. This system that you have set up for them, it's not working with none of my kids. My wife is on, she's on the computer with my daughter 7 days a week, from when my daughter wakes up until she goes to bed at night. I hate seeing my daughter do this. She, of just one of my kids, is so far behind on her grades and assignments that she is, sorry, I'm a cigarette smoker, I'm not sick. My daughter is puking in a bucket at night before she goes to school, the day she has to go to school, because she is so overwhelmed of trying to get caught up, of trying to just come to school and do her schoolwork. She does not understand it. My wife is not a teacher. Your system is a failure that I think in my home, what I see, none of my kids have the help they need. All of my kids, my junior in high school, she has high honor roll and honor roll, freshman, sophomore year. She wants to be a vet. She is trying and she's failing right now. She does not have the help. I called the principal the other day and asked him, I don't know what to do. Todd, what can I do? My kids need to be in front of these teachers. They really do. If there's some kids like this gentleman here that it helped him, that's awesome. That you guys have different ways to set this up, and for some kids, if you're gonna let the kids pick whatever works best for them, each kid, that's between you guys and the teachers, and that's awesome that you guys can do stuff like that. My kids are failing with the only system you have set up for them. They're failing. My daughter she's getting, we'll go back to my daughter Caddy now. She's puking in a bucket to try and go to school in the morning. She's got herself so worked up, she's got diarrhea. So when she does come to school, this week was the second time you sent her home for diarrhea and made my daughter go get that thing crammed up her nose in 5th grade. So every time my daughter says, I gotta go to the bathroom, and your teacher says, well, what'd you do in the bathroom? How does the teacher know my daughter has diarrhea? She has that twice now, and you sent her, and she both came back twice now negative. She does not need to be at home. She needs to be with the teachers that help her pass. That is the teacher's job. My wife should not be so stressed out that she is on the computer with my kids. My son, he is absolutely, I have a poison and I have a good one of my 2 kids in the high school. My son, he can turn in an assignment to you guys with nothing on it and come show me and my wife, I did it today. Okay, I don't know your system. So my son can come lie to me easily, and my daughter is trying as hard as she can to get those perfect grades that she wants. And you're making it too easy for my son to fail, and you're making it not easy enough for my daughter to be able to pass. I would like my kids to come back to school. I really would like my kids to come back to school. You asked about being a hypocrite of the bus riding. I sat here and watched them boys play basketball. So that is hypocritical. They're playing basketball out there, and do you think they're staying 6 feet apart when that dude's gonna pull up in his face and drain a 3-pointer on him? He didn't miss, I was watching. Our school district hasn't, you guys do really good for this school district. Tunkhannock is the best school district I have seen for my kids. And what you guys do for them when they're here, that's why you've never seen me at this meeting, because you're good at your job. Right now, I think all of you are failing. You're all failing my kids in my home. And I want my kids to come back here where they have the teacher's help, because my wife can't do it. And I told my wife the other day, after I talked to the principal, don't you sit down with her and do it. If that system they have set up, she can't turn that computer on and learn it between the teacher and her, and they can't figure this out, that they have a failed system with this for some kids, not all of them, then let them figure it out. That's your guys' job. That's what my taxes pay you guys to do. And then you guys got raises and stuff. That's my, I vote, I agree with that lady. 5 days, let them come back. They're obviously, the children are not scared to be socially distanced next to each other, or he wouldn't be out there in his face guarding him. My daughter plays field hockey as a goalie. These kids are not scared of it. Have you been to Walmart? I mean, yes, you got to follow the CDC's rules, but these kids, that's not following it. They're not socially distancing out there on that basketball court right now.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Hi, I'm Krista Diefenbach. I'm a junior here at the high school, and in my opinion, I feel like we should stay the 2 days that we are. The brick and mortar has helped me a lot. I'm a music student, and I come in just for my music classes, and then I'm C3 for the rest of my classes. I have had the best grades I've ever had. I can say that I am in the National Honor Society. I never thought that that would be even a thing for me. I'm pretty average. Like, I have A's and maybe a B every once in a while. I've had 99s and 100s, and I've seen a lot of my peers struggling, and I'm asking them, I'm like, why isn't this working for you? And they're blaming it on teachers. I've sat with teachers. Whenever I communicate a teacher, they answer me back within 15 minutes tops. Some, maybe even like a minute or two, and I haven't had a problem with any communication with teachers whatsoever. It's not them. And I've noticed, for me as a C3 student, I don't want to go on my computer in the morning. I just want to sleep in. But you have to have that urge to do your work, because that's what's going to get you to succeed in life. I had a statement prepared, but honestly, you guys have answered most of my questions. If we were to return to the 4-day, would people like me who are at C3, would we still be able to continue to come back for our classes that we would like to come into? That wasn't mentioned in the presentation.
You're right, it was not mentioned, and I just need to make sure that you're rostered in the numbers that I'm using. I suspect that you are.
Yes, I have been back for the full extent of the third quarter.
Yeah, so
Or second quarter,
I'll
my
tell you what,
apology.
let me check that tomorrow and just verify that you are in the numbers that I'm using. Are you here tomorrow?
Nobody's here tomorrow.
Oh, it's Friday. All right, so.
Monday with the weather.
836-3111, extension 1000. Give me till noon to check it with the guidance office, and give me a call. And
Thank you so much.
Okay.
I know that there are a lot of other students who are in the same situation.
Yeah, that's a really
and
good question.
I fought for my life trying to get back here,
Yeah.
back to the school, because I was on C3 the first quarter. And I love what you guys are doing, and I hope that you guys continue to make the right decisions. I love that you're trying to accommodate everyone into coming back to the 4-day type plan, but I feel that, like, I don't want to sit out in a tent in the freezing cold playing an instrument. My instrument has to be temperature regulated. It can't be outside.
There'll be heat.
And so that's just something that I want you guys to consider. Thank you.
So when you come back, are you period B, wind ensemble? Yes. Okay. All right. I just want to make sure that you're in my numbers that I'm using. Okay. I suspect that you are.
Yes, I'm here on period A.
Okay. All right.
Good evening. My name is Michaela Sigafus. I'm a senior at Tunkhannock Area High School. I came here tonight for the same reason as everybody else, to express how I feel and advocate for what's important to me.
Excuse me, could you come closer to the mic?
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you.
I would like to start off by acknowledging just how lucky we are to live in Tunkhannock area. We have watched schools around us and all over the world close their doors and go completely virtual because of the pandemic, yet here we are standing strong and proud, able to provide our students with an in-person education unlike any other. Not many people can say the same. We have faced many trials and tribulations throughout this hectic journey, and our school district has consistently stepped up to the plate to support our community through it all. For that, I sincerely thank each and every one of you. Tonight, most of us are here to discuss our current education program, the hybrid and C3 schedule. A group of community members are pushing to change our hybrid schedule to a full 4, maybe even 5-day school week. Myself and many other members of our school district disagree with this proposal, and we want to ensure our voices are heard. One of the biggest concerns I've noticed throughout the community is students losing out or being robbed of their education. While I can understand why that may be seen as an issue, I think we've looked over the fact that the target grade levels and the most need of an education and socialization are already attending school 4 days a week. Not to mention, basic education is taking things learned from the year before, relearning it the next year, and then building onto that. Anything students are missing now will obviously be taught in the years to come. Teachers are aware that your student is not getting the full education experience, and they are not disregarding that. I think we also tend to overlook that we are not the only school district currently going through this health crisis. All over the world, schools have had to pause their regular education programs and adjust to a new form of learning. Most of the country is at a standstill currently with our education. However, it is not like our students aren't learning anything at all. We're still following our curriculum just like previous years, simply in a more condensed form to accommodate for lost time. A large amount of students have even seen their grades soar in the past few months, including myself. The programs that have been created and executed in merely months by our school are not only impressive, but extremely effective for the amount of time they were given. Remember, we haven't been in this pandemic for years. It has only been a few months. Not everything is going to run smoothly, and nobody can expect it to. This is a temporary solution to a temporary problem, and everyone is doing their best. Safety should be everybody's ultimate concern. Our school district, specifically the high school, has already closed down multiple times while only on the hybrid schedule. Keep in mind, there has always been social distancing implemented and proper guidelines followed. Moving us to a full 4 days, all at the same time in the same building, is almost guaranteed to cause another shutdown. Even with proper social distancing, it is inevitable that students will come within those 6 feet at some point during the day, whether it be on the bus, exiting a classroom, or walking through the hallway. All it takes is one student to come into the building knowing that they don't feel well, or even having no symptoms at all, and several other students have now been exposed and possibly contracted COVID. It is simply not safe. The system we have now has been in place for months and everyone has adjusted to it. Although it is not perfect, at least we know that it works. The fact that we have been going by the schedule for months already can also cause problems. Many students have gotten comfortable with the schedule, and the sudden change in our last marking period will hardly give any time to adjust and will most definitely be a difficult transition for many of us. As one last note, I'd just like to remind everybody that while your children will obviously be your biggest concern, our teachers matter too. I know a few teachers that are more than ready to get back to regular school days, understandably so, but there are also plenty that are concerned about their personal safety. Teachers' health, safety, and feelings matter just as much as anyone else's, and we should really take that into account as well. This is their job. They come into this building or log onto their computers every day to educate your children and help them succeed. They've had a rough transition, just like all of us, but they got stuck with learning Canvas first, creating new lesson plans, accommodating for both online and in-person students, and figuring out how to still help your child grow with new restrictions. I know some parents have stumbled across some teachers that have been giving some difficulty, but most of our teachers have given 110% of their effort for all of us, and they should be recognized for it. They are heroes in their own way, and they deserve as much consideration and respect as everybody else. I trust that the school board will make the right decision for our district, and I truly hope our concerns and safety are taken into careful consideration. Thank you for your time.
Hello. My name is Patricia Stone. A little bit about me is I have 7 children. I have 5 of them that are enrolled in school. My son is banned to Elk Lake for whatever, an IEP reason, whatever. So my oldest daughter here, her name is Paige. She's in 6th grade. The Chromebooks and the technology are an issue, and I do not have technology for my children in my house. They don't have phones. They're not on computers. The most that they would get was they would, every once in a while, get through, when my son would turn our thing off to the network to keep, what they're allowed to see, they would get on YouTube. For the last couple days, I have found out that my daughter has accessed a live YouTube music channel where there are people that create Zoom meetings, and she has been going in Zoom meetings telling her father that it's people she went to school with when it's not. It's random people, random men. She's opened up a dating profile somehow that she got off through this YouTube channel. Now, I called and expressed my concerns to Mrs. McPherson a few days ago. And she had asked me if I talked to the principal. I said, no, I started with you. She sent me to the tech department and said, if she's getting through something, we need to find out what this is. You can't block YouTube, you can't block Zoom, because that's what the kids are using. And she's only in 6th grade. She's 12 years old, so imagine how many other kids are doing this too. After I spoke, I didn't hear back from Heather. I know Mr. Croman said he was going to talk to you and that you would call me back. I never heard anything back. I did get a call. I got a message from the principal to call her to go over it. In the meantime, I checked my daughter's computer today because she had it at school yesterday. She had it at school today. She spends almost all day, every single time per hour on YouTube during class. She opens it up on the bus. She opens it up as soon as she gets to school. You can look in her history and see every time she's accessed these YouTube videos all day long during class. Now, there's no way to block it, right? So she's on a live YouTube with random people in a chat screen. How is that fixable for a 6th grade student? Now, if we go on to my other children, my youngest daughter that's in school, this is my 3-year-old, I also have an 8-month-old. My first grader has issues. She has an iPad, we go with her, it takes hours. She's to the point now that she doesn't want to watch videos anymore. She can't even stand watching the YouTube videos or any videos that are connected, even the teacher's teaching, because she has to watch so many of them to get to the paper that she has to do for that class. She's to the point where I have to convince a 7-year-old little girl, you know, you gotta watch the videos. You know, she doesn't even like it anymore. So my question is this. The reason why children are children is they're children until they're 18. Their brain capacity is correct. That's why they're not considered adults till they're 18. The parents should be the ones making the decisions, in my opinion, because we know what's best for our children. I want my children in school 5 days a week. I want nothing to do with virtual. I don't want clearly, she can still access it at school, even when she's told, I was told that she could possibly not bring it home during the week or only on Fridays or have, you know, paper or book work for Fridays. But at this point, when that's 2 days that she's accessed this all day long at school, and I can't stop it. I've tried, I've talked to her, I explained to her, do we even have like anybody that tells people what grown people can do to children? Like what they can access through their personal information? She's on YouTube, she created a YouTube video 5 days ago, her name, her school district, her friends on the bus. Like she's giving out all this information that wouldn't be here if this wasn't in my house, because they don't have computers. She's my oldest girl, my son's 13, she's 12. I have 5 children underneath them that aren't exposed to any of this, that she's opening this door up because she thinks it's cool and she thinks it's fun. And I don't agree with that. I think, in my opinion, as somebody else had mentioned about the virtual program, of why we have to have a day off, I want my children in school 5 days a week, and next year she starts with the STEM Academy. So this isn't a temporary thing. This has happened for over a year now. So it's not temporary, it's not just gonna go away in a month. Like this is what we're stuck with and what we're trying to figure out. And if anybody would like to come sit at my kitchen table for the 8 hours a day and teach 5 different children in 5 different grades, I would love it. Come to my house and help out, because it's me against them. And I'm doing the best that I can, but I can't continue to keep doing this because I'm so stressed out. And with an 8-month-old baby, the answer to the problem is Zoom meetings, and I'm so thankful for my children's teachers. I am thankful for them. But on the same note, we've had missed days because the teachers didn't show up. And I saw, this was a few months ago. So many were related to COVID and so many were completely not. So that's not even okay. Like we're shutting school down because our teachers aren't coming in to teach either. I need my kids in school 5 days a week. If there was a virtual program in the past, and I know this, maybe it was a different program that my son used, but we didn't skip a day of school for everybody else that's not involved in it so that we can work on that curriculum to get that going, right? There's been some kind of cyber program. So at this point, it's okay, well, we as a district need to build our program, so your children have to stay home the 5th day. For students that don't want to go back, there's this C3 program, right? It's open to people to the kids that don't want to go back and sit in classrooms. So it doesn't make sense that my children are sitting at home watching YouTube or random Zoom meetings with random people when they should be in a school district with no technology. Because what I'm hearing now is we're putting headsets. We're putting headsets on students. So my daughter's gonna come in here, 8th grade, and sit over there, if this still went on at this point, I'm just using it as an example. Say now, any 8th grade student, they can go put a headset on, and you think that they're gonna watch that teacher and listen to that teacher and not go on other things? Because she's 12. High school students know more than she does. Like this is just what she got from the time that she's had this Chromebook.
Thank you.
Thank you. Come on.
My name is Jody King. I have 2 children in the school district, one in 9th grade, one in 7th grade. There's just a couple things I want to say. I want to appreciate the work that you've done so far. I want to say we're not done. We're definitely not done. I'd like to know if we could please reapproach the issue of face masks. $75,000 on face masks seems excessive. We've got a few board members wearing their own face masks right now. How do I know you cleaned them? How do I know you washed them? That's the same thing we heard at the beginning of the year. We shouldn't be spending $75,000 on a face mask. Everybody owns one. Everybody. Everybody owns probably 5. The other thing I'd like to say is I understand the high school students that want to remain cyber. That's great for them. It works for them. That's awesome. It's not working for a lot of other students. We have to do what's right for all of the kids. And if we need a cyber program, maybe that's to be something that's built outside of our regular school system. It's not something we should be building at the backs of the other children that want to be here. And a 19% failure rate is disgusting. And I don't ever want to hear it's the same as everybody around, because I can tell you this. My mother said to me, if everybody wanted to jump off a bridge, would you jump off a bridge? Well, that seems fine then, because, you know, they wanted to jump off a bridge. Well, I don't want my kids jumping off a bridge. 19% is horrible, and I know it's worse than the second market period. We all know that it's worse. We have to. Please do better. Continue to try harder for our kids. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Aiden West, and I'm a freshman in the high school, and I wanted to actually bring up a few points, not on whether or not we should
Excuse me? Could you come closer to the mic? I can't hear you.
Actually, just tip it up.
Tip it up.
Tip it up?
Yep.
I actually wanted to bring up points about not whether or not we should be in hybrid or in full person, but rather what happens once we are in full person. Given what we heard from the slideshow that Mrs. McPherson put together, which was very informative, thank you. The current system that seems to be up, it seems chaotic. The way that it was spoken about said that most things aren't known right now, which is to be expected, but also it places a lot of strain on students. You have students not exactly knowing where they're going to go and having to move from the auditorium to the cafeteria to maybe outside when it could rain or thunderstorm or any number of things. You have headsets that now need to be used in addition to Chromebooks. Issues about technology suddenly jump up, since instead of a teacher having the option to speak to their students, like in my English class, they're required to have to use them if they're in if they have any classes above 15 students, or if they're the lucky person that gets to be in the band room 20 students or under. There was also the concern I had with the gym. Mrs. McPherson actually mentioned sports. One of the spring sports, volleyball, relies heavily on the gym. It's where they set up the nets and the ball. It's one of the only places, at least that I know of, that they can practice. To have classes consistently be in there means that volleyball practice would have to be, well, greatly changed, to say the least, to even survive. And with that, there's also the importance of actually being in school. It is to be said that being in school is important, and person instruction is what students have been used to for several years. Despite that, for the past 3/4 of a year, we've been having to use a hybrid system. We know, at least somewhat, how to navigate through it. To change in the last 45, 55 days of a school year, 9 to 11 weeks, may cause more confusion and chaos than need be, than just finishing up the school year as we have been going. And lastly, with the science, and actually that's just it, because of how the science labs work, you'd have classes having to switch between days. Like the cohort system, when they've been told they can be in person, this isn't going to be what was normal. It's a new type of strangeness. Not at-home in-person strangeness, but just an in-person strangeness with a one day at home. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lauren Boakley. I'm in 8th grade. I just wanted to say, for all the people saying that this is just a small group of parents who want us to go back into school, there are a lot of students who also want to be back in school full-time. Many of them have just not been able to come out and talk or stand up for it, but I know a lot of people who would really like to be back in school. And for the people saying that some people are doing better doing hybrid school, I understand that, and I am one of the lucky students who has had grades that have not dropped at all, and I'm still doing well. But for all the other people who require teachers in front of them to learn better, their grades have dropped. And that's only proved by the failure rates that we were given earlier tonight, that a lot of people are not doing as well with the hybrid school, and that's why I want to go back to school. Thanks.
Thank you.
To build on what she said, we did do a survey, and of the responses that we got, 75% said that if we come back, even if it's just with limited social distancing, that those parents chose to send their kids back. So I don't want to dismiss the push. I mean, I've been pushing to bring the kids back since September, but I don't want to dismiss the push from people in the community as a small pocket or a small group of parents, because while there are parents that would prefer to stay out for their own reasons that are personal to them, the large majority of the feedback is send the kids back to school. And I also just want to say real quick that I'm going to jump out on a limb and say that there's no one on this board that is more supportive of volleyball than I am. So I actually called Jeff, the coach, a couple weeks ago and said, can we make the volleyball season work in the IC gym? And he and I talked about what that would be like, and I'm sure Heather has a plan for that. It's not being canceled, it's being relocated. So I just didn't want that misunderstanding to be out there. Sorry.
Hi, my name is Tessa Mitchell. I just wanted to mention I have a second grader in the school district who is new to the school this year. It was determined at the very beginning of the first semester that there was an area of concern that he cannot read. He's in second grade, and there's nothing being done about it. The whole Zoom thing does not work for him. Having videos on the computer where, for the 100th day of school, for instance, there was 4 videos on there with people jumping around and singing. That's not teaching. Unfortunately, he doesn't learn well that way, obviously. I'm pretty sure there's a learning disability, and I've mentioned that. Oh, we'll put it in front of the, program, problem, whatever, and nothing ever becomes of it because we're not in school enough to do anything about it. I have hired a tutor who is a retired teacher, a reading specialist who comes up here from Plymouth to meet us at the Tunkhannock Library on Fridays to assist him with his reading. That is not acceptable to me. I am a very good advocate for my children, but that should not be my sole purpose in life. That should be on the teachers as well. And on top of it, I work night shift. I am a registered nurse. I have worked through this whole damn pandemic, excuse my language, and I work night shift. I cannot be working night shift, sit up all day long with a second grader who you do have to sit down there and pay attention that he's doing his work because he's going to choose not to do it. He can't do it. It's hard for him to do it, so he's going to choose not to. I have to sit at the table with him until his work is done. Just like you're not qualified to go to the hospital and do my job, I'm not qualified, I'm not certified to be a teacher. And it's not acceptable. The Zoom videos are not acceptable. The teacher gets on in the morning at 9 o'clock in the morning for 15 minutes. The only thing they talk about is how do you feel? What are you going to do today? What are you excited about? That's the extent of it. That's the extent of his exposure to that teacher. That's not acceptable. That's not teaching. And I'm tired of it. And I'm with everybody else. 4 days a week, we can go 5. It's ridiculous. I understand there's teachers that are very good at their job. I get that. I can't do their job. Just as I can't do my job via Zoom. I can't send somebody else in to do my job and expect myself to get paid for it. It doesn't happen that way. So it's just totally unacceptable in my world.
Thank you.
Phil, I have a question.
Yes, Lori.
Heather, I don't know if you can answer this, or you may have to get back to me. The SCCTC students, I know when they come back from Elk Lake, they're in a classroom together the last part of the day for their education,
Right.
and vice versa.
Right.
So are we going to allow those students to actually join the general population once they come back from
So
there?
if they want to, yeah, they would be part of the Fusion
And if-
C3. They would be part of the kids that would be allowed to come back if they want
Okay.
to at the beginning of the 4th market.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Thank you. Okay. Let's have roll call.
Mr. Scully? Yes. Mr. Wagner?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Gregory?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Dr. Cavola?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes.
Mr. Clark?
Yes. Okay, moving on. I don't believe we had any committee that met. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, I think what I'd like to do, Mr. Bosher, I think we talked a little bit about moving into the spring sports season. There's really nothing that's changed from the PIAA perspective, but I think we should probably get an extracurricular meeting. And Lori and Rob, are you guys available early part of next week, say Tuesday night? Would that work?
Yeah.
How about Tuesday at 6 o'clock here? Or in the, where do you want to have it, here or in the
Library.
do it here? Okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
Would 6 o'clock work, Mr. Bosher? So let's get that on for Tuesday. We may not have anything from the PIAA, but I know that there's the spring sports season is getting up. I did receive a couple of emails with some questions. I think we can bring that up at the extracurricular meeting. Okay?
Do we have a date for coaches meeting?
Monday.
Coaches meeting's Monday?
Monday.
Is that here?
It'll probably be in the library.
Library.
Okay. What time?
4 o'clock.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, anybody else with committees? Okay. Monday's coaches meeting, 4 o'clock in the library. Tuesday is extracurricular meeting, 6 o'clock here. Okay, Bob? All right, item 8, unfinished business. Looking for resolution for the collective bargaining agreement.
Second.
Okay, motion and second, discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Wagner?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett? Yes. Mrs. Gregory?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Dr. Cavola?
Yes.
Mr. Scully? Mrs. Arnold?
Yes.
Mr. Clark?
Yes. Item 9 is the Visa account, there for your review. New business. We have number 2, looking for resolution to approve payment for the Bangladesh HVAC.
Motion approved. Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Dr. Cavola?
Yes.
Mr. Scully? Yes. Mr. Wagner?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes.
Mr. Clark?
Yes. Item 3 is the fuel bid for next year.
So, lights on. No one's on.
Oh, there it is.
Coming's on.
You're talking to the wrong thing, Shane. You're talking into the antenna. Sorry.
Helps when it's been a long day.
Sorry.
Thank you. So in the packet this evening, you will see a proposal for the fuel bid. This is a fuel oil purchase. This is consistent with the procedure that we use each year. The bid that is in your packet is listed at 60,000 gallons for the district. I just want to share a couple of things real quick. If you were to look at our historical usage across the 3 buildings that are currently using fuel oil is around 80,000 gallons. There have been some changes over the last year that have been improvements that have been led by the maintenance department, which have enabled us to see a reduction in fuel usage. However, on the flip side of that, we also recognize that there are some things that are happening at a building level right now that cause our fuel usage to potentially be higher. So one example of that is running our dampers in a more open position than we might normally during the winter months in an attempt to increase air circulation in the buildings and bring in more fresh air. So as a result of that, in the colder months, there is going to be more of a heating load on the buildings. So at this point in the year, we are already approaching 60,000 gallons across the different buildings in the district. so we need to just make a decision about whether or not 60,000 is the right number going forward. Once we are committed to purchasing that fuel, then we are committed to the dollar amount associated with that full number of gallons. So in the event that we used less than the bid amount of fuel, then the district is financially obligated to that purchase. So an alternative would be to commit to a purchase of 50,000 gallons. If we exceed that number, then we go out onto the open market and make that purchase. So for example, this year, 2021, our bid was for 45,000 gallons. So we have exceeded that, and that is not uncommon. That is typical that we exceed, because we don't typically like to bid too high, knowing that there may be a potential not being able to use the fuel. So 60 is what's in your packet, although based on some of the current trends, 50,000 would also be a reasonable option, and I just leave that to the group for discussion and recommendation when you make a motion.
Thank you.
So we're just locking into, if we get the 50,000, we're locking into a price.
That's correct.
If we use more, 60,000, we just have to pay the difference, assuming it goes up.
Yeah, but Bill,
it could also go down.
I think we should be in like at 40,000. And because the thing is, where we're locked in, there's gonna be times during the year we can buy fuel on the market cheaper than we're locked in. It's a little bit of work to manage it, but, and we just don't know what we're gonna do. Like, we said it before, discussed it. If God forbid, with the virus, we have to shut down for a couple months, you're locked into all that fuel. I would say we should be like a 40 or 45,000 gallons where we were this year.
And what we used so far this year?
We're approaching 60,000.
And it's not even the end of this?
So far,
Okay.
correct.
Okay.
Correct. And, I will say that this year, we started boilers up at the intermediate center earlier than we did the year prior due to colder temperatures. So, you always have that weather factor, which is obviously nearly impossible for us to predict.
Okay.
But, I would anticipate this year we will probably approach close to 70,000 gallons by the time it's all said and done.
I think 50's a good number.
I don't care. I just tell you what I would, just tell you, it's kind of what I do, and it's what I would buy, but I don't care.
We put the bid in for 50,000 gallons.
We have a motion for 50,000 gallons on the bid. Do we have a second?
Yeah, second.
Do we have a second? Any more discussion?
45 is 4 tank loads. 45,000 if we have to bid it in tank loads.
7,500 gallons a load.
You have to bid in tank loads?
No. You have to take delivery in tank.
Yes, that's a good question. John's giving me the nod over there.
That's a yes?
That's a good point, though. We can confirm that number.
So
it's probably like
52,500 would be even tank load?
45 or 52,500.
I'll second the amended motion. 45.
So 52,500.
Okay.
Okay, any other discussion? Roll call.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Gregory?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Dr. Cavola?
Yes.
Mr. Scully? Yes. Mr. Whitehead?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes.
Mr. Clark?
Yes. Okay. Any other public comments? Okay, none. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Thank you, everyone.